Well, thank you everybody for coming today. Today we are going to be talking about personal branding and how it is a pillar of leadership. Our intention here is to really, establish how to gain momentum and leave the legacy that is aligned with your values and purpose in life. I'm Maria Barera, and this is my friend and big sister from our sorority, Angelica O'Campo, and she is joining us from Santa Ana.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Maria, for inviting me. And yeah, I'm excited to share, what we have today. And it really is our intention for everyone just to plant the seed that everyone can build their personal brand. And it just takes a little bit of introspection work, and that's like the foundation of it.
Perfect. Let's see if internet cooperates today. So for today's agenda, we're going to have a small introduction. Part one is going to be what is personal branding. Then we're going to move on to personal branding and how it goes hand in hand with leadership. And then our third part is how to build your personal brand, and then how to take action. And at the end, we'll have a small conclusion / quote and time for questions. And our intention here is to really have it like a discussion base, like it's not just us presenting, but have it like a discussion, have it be a conversation, Okay. So just a little bit about me. So my name is Maria. I graduated from the MBA cohort in 2021. My concentration was entrepreneurship and innovation. So, I love that concentration, but I'm also amazed and intrigued by leadership. So therefore, I'm kind of pivoting to this too. I'm currently a pharmacology scientist at Turning Point Therapeutics, but I recently got an offer today for a project management role. So I'm really excited. Thank you. While I was in the MBA program, my colleague and I, Carla, which I love her to death, she's great, co-founded Women in Leadership. I'm kind of trying to get that back up. We also started Women's Finance Circle to just help increase visibility and knowledge about personal finance. And some of you I mentioned too, I'm also going to be a personal brand coach for 2022 cohort through Anna Vitoni's personal brand program.
Hi, everyone. Yes, first and foremost, thank you, Maria, for inviting me to share this presentation with you. So my name is Angelica O'Campo. I am a personal brand coach and entrepreneur. I am working on building a personal brand program, and I help creatives and entrepreneurs align their vision and share their message with confidence. And yeah, I do content strategy and social media management.
Thank you. So what is an intention, right? An intention is a commitment of what you want the process to be about outside of the tangible outcome. Angie, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, so before we dive into personal branding, we want to set the intention for our presentation. So our intention is to provide a meaningful presentation to inspire and move you to take action towards living a more aligned life so that you can fulfill your purpose in life. So that's our intention for today. And before we get started, we want to take a few seconds, 60 seconds, to allow you to take a moment to set your intention and identify your why. You've all been called here because you want to build your personal brand, you want to be a leader in your field, you have a message to share. So let's take a moment to just get in tune with that message. What is your intention for today? In this moment, and who do you want to become?
And if anybody wants to share like why they came to this presentation today, we'd be happy to hear. Okay. If not, we'll move on.
So it's interesting. Do you mind if I share?
Yeah, no, go for it.
So I met with a person a couple weeks ago who was like asking me, "What's your purpose?" And we went through this thing, and he asked me a few more questions, and he's like, "Your purpose is to mentor people to do good things." And I hadn't ever thought of this idea of intention or purpose but it was something about like just putting that down that made me like get kind of excited about it and focus on it. So I love that you guys are kind of doing that here, because I do think that's not something that I've normally done. But even and like this is a bigger one, but I love the idea of even in just our time here. What's my intention, so I love that.
Yeah.
And it resonated with something I just did separately, so.
Yeah.
So
And
I
the
feel like,
yeah.
go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify is that sometimes we're so focused on the tangible outcome, which is goal setting, that we forget about the process. And in terms of building a personal brand, you're not going to build it overnight. So we want to set the intention of what are we gaining and learning in that process. And that's kind of the definition we have for intention, is being more present in the moment and as the process unfolds versus being so caught up in the outcome of whatever you're trying to accomplish.
All right.
I have a quick question, and it's something that I feel that like it is very interesting, at least like in my career. Here's Juliana, sorry. And I'm an HR, and one of the things that I always knew since I started my career is that like, oh, I'm a people person, right? And I'm a people person, and a lot of the times when I go back to like what my purpose in life, it always go back like to the people. So it's like definitely like something that I feel that like it's more into not my job specifically, you know, and like some people sometimes they might feel that like, you know, it's not necessarily what you do as a career, but sometimes like seeing what career you are right now and like when you use the best of your skills, you know, because, you know, I'm a people person. So you're like, oh, okay, I will, you know, work with something related to people because I feel like that's my skills are best explore, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure if like people feel like that as well.
Yeah, no, I agree, Juliana. Well, thank you both for sharing. Now to get into like the meat of the presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce like the idea of personal branding. As I feel like a lot of people don't really understand it. They just like talk about, you know, branding for companies, but now it's like, what about yourself? So really introduce what personal branding is. And then Angie will kind of talk about the foundation of it all.
Yes. So, well, yeah, I was just going to say, I agree, Juliana. I think like your purpose unfolds, not just professionally, it's really how you lead your life as a whole person. And that's why personal branding is important. It's not just about your professional life, it's how you lead as a whole person. You don't have to split your personal and professional life. Yeah, so what is personal branding? In simple terms, a personal brand is you. Personal branding is a process of communicating and presenting your value to the world by sharing your story, your life experiences, your skills, your gifts and passions. And it's by authentically sharing who you are, you have the power to build a legacy. And I think that's it's so powerful today, especially with the rise of social media. We can really impact people and be of service to others. And in order to do that and to build a personal brand, we first have to do some inner work and introspection. And the first steps are identifying your vision, asking yourself, who do you want to become? What are your values? What is important to you? What's your mission? What is your purpose? And in terms of purpose, it doesn't have to be career or vocation. It's in any area of your life where you make a difference. If you're a people person, if you make people feel safe, you're already living your purpose. If you make people laugh, you know, it can be in the simple things, but there's a purpose in the way you lead your life every day. And in the next slide, we're going to continue with the principles of building your foundation. It's also identifying your skills and gifts. What are you good at? What is a problem that you have overcome and perhaps you can help someone else overcome? Why do people, if they're people, what do people come to you for help or advice? Yeah, it's about thinking about if someone comes to you and is constantly asking your help for a specific area in your life, there's a gift there that you have and you may not be aware of. And your passions, like what do you love? What makes you feel alive? And also I would add intention. Ultimately, we want to set an intention for our life journey and our personal development. So what commitment are you making to yourself in this process of becoming who you want to be? Once you identify your vision, there's a road that we have to take, you know, it's a life path. but setting an intention can help us just continue this life path that sometimes, gets bumpy. But if we can clearly identify that vision for ourselves, we can continue, to hold our values and live a life with purpose.
So you all will be asking like, well, how does personal branding and leadership go hand in hand? So let me get my notes. So in high-performing organizations at certain levels, everyone is exceptional, right? To clearly differentiate yourself, what you value and what you bring to the table, you need to do more than have a good reputation. You need to have an outstanding personal brand. Often we confuse our reputation with our personal brand, but the two are not one of the same. Everyone has a reputation. The first impressions you make, the relationships you form with managers and peers, and how you communicate, all of these things impact how others see you. For instance, if you ask your colleagues to describe you, they might say you're a warm person who's easy to collaborate with. Some might say that you occasionally run late to meetings but are great at prioritizing tasks. Your reputation is made up of the opinions and beliefs that people form about you based on your collective actions and behaviors. Your personal brand, on the other hand, is much more intentional. It is how you want people to see you. Whereas reputation is about credibility, your personal brand is about visibility and the values that you outwardly represent. You have the power to define your brand by aligning with your intentions with your actions. That is, changing your decisions and behaviors to influence how others see you and to help them connect both emotionally and intellectually to the image you hope to portray. If that image aligns with the opportunities you want them, you are likely to secure them, right? You want to show up as a genuine, authentic leader because people will follow you for who you are, not what you have to just offer. Personal brand and leadership embodies a lot of qualities, but most importantly, it is critical for someone who is in a leadership role to model an authentic, values-based brand of leadership, because being authentic helps gain people's trust. So showing qualities of selflessness, efficient communication, knowledge, consistency, and vulnerability are important, but a lot of us only achieve that by achieving a level of self-awareness, and that's the key part of personal branding. So now Angie's going to talk about why this is important.
Yeah, so personal branding is, it is a pillar of leadership. Many leaders lack self-awareness, and this can play a role in creating a toxic work culture. I think right now, there's a rise of people just being unhappy in their workplace. And it's because many managers aren't ready to lead. They don't have the self-awareness or have done the introspection work to really define their values and their purpose. By knowing yourself first and learning to lead yourself, you can be of service to others. But first, you must be willing to do the inner work. And this is the personal brand foundation. And it's important to gain self-awareness, which is the process of building your personal brand, so you can lead from a place of compassion and empathy and make a difference in your workplace by leading with clear values and purpose, which I feel like many of us can agree that this is what's lacking in leadership. And this is how we can redefine what leadership is through the process of introspection and self-awareness that building your personal brand offers.
And I can provide some examples of how and of why I feel it's important to have that level of self-awareness and establishing what kind of leader you want to be. I work also in biotech, and a lot of leaders or managers have been promoted to the roles just because of the years of experience and because they have a PhD, which is great, but they lack the people skills. So in our company, we're seeing a huge turnover because people are leaving because the culture is not fitting to what, it's not providing the needs that they want, and yeah, they have leaders take these courses, but they are failing to learn how to apply it. It's just yeah, you can take a course that says you're certified and blah, blah, blah. But it's then they could go revert back to their old ways. And that's why you're seeing people leave, because they don't feel valued. They don't feel like they're being met with compassion. And I feel like that's what we're seeing with the Great Resignation. People are leaving because they don't feel valued. So that's a lot of people start their own business because they can see that, hey, I don't need someone else to provide it for me. I can do it myself. People leave bad work, toxic work cultures. I myself have left in the past because it was a toxic work culture, and I wasn't afraid to tell HR that, but did anything happen? No, because yeah, like they heard me, but what systems did it put in place to fix it? So that's why for me, it's really important to bring awareness of how we could potentially change this, especially within the STEM field, because I mean, that's the only industry I know. But I mean, Angie also has some great examples herself. Like we talk about this all the time.
Yes, so actually I work for myself now doing social media and content strategy, but before I worked at a startup company, which was very toxic. The CEO lacked compassion and just really leadership. There was high turnover and I was always the last one standing until I had to become aware of my own value and self-respect and, even personal branding. I think the foundation really teaches you to become aware of your value and what you can offer. And you don't have to stay in a place that you're not valued because you know your worth and you know how you can leverage your talents and skills. So yeah, definitely, I think self-awareness and leadership is really important. And I think it's a place where we can really start to talk about leadership in a different way and create a more positive, community in the workplace.
Does anyone else have any experiences where they left because of a toxic work culture?
Maria, this is Ryan. I was going to say not so much toxic, but the key bullet point there I think is on the third one, which is regarding empathy, because empathy, statistically speaking, drives a lot of employee engagement and morale. So kind of piggybacking off our last session, if you're not lending yourself in an empathetic manner, you'll typically drive folks away because there'll be an asymmetry in expectations. So as a leader, you really want to understand what are the concerns, the cares, the drivers of your individual staff that you're overseeing, because that'll help you effectively manage the team performance. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is Jennifer. To piggyback off that, I think it's leadership being aware, as you're talking about being self-aware and what they can actually provide for people. It's great to say you want to do XYZ, but if you don't have the skills, the ability, for whatever reason, I'm in a situation where we've been promised certain things that aren't coming forward. And it's simply because the leadership isn't capable of doing it. And so, and there's kind of no hope that skill is going to emerge, but it's not recognized. So it's that lack of self-awareness that creates the toxic work environment, because there's promises made that can't be kept because there's a lack of understanding of what they actually are capable of.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing too is that it's so unfair with the people that are being put in those positions without being prepared to lead, right? Sometimes they are just not leaders and like I think leadership, it is something that you teach, but it also this person needs to be willing to lead, right? So a lot of what I see in cases when we have like leadership that is not successful is that like either that person is, like Maria said, like put into this leadership position because of their seniority or their technical knowledge. Honestly, I don't agree with that. I think those people, they can be technical leaders, but they should not be people's leaders, because leadership really requires an extra level of awareness. And I love that we were talking about that, because the awareness around you and the lack of awareness, it really, really affects morale. And I am dealing with that in my work environment right now. And I can see that like some morale is one of those things that you have to really, it's a glass, right? Once you broke, it's very hard to build it back. So fixing that, but always starting with the leader, right? And like how we can make it better and things like that, and coach them to be better leaders. But sometimes the self-awareness is not there. And if they don't want to learn, what's next step, right? Maybe you're not supposed to be a leader in that in that specific group. So I'm excited that we're talking about that for sure.
Thank you all for sharing. That was great.
Yeah, this is Eric. I just wanted to share, Maria, I support some of your comments. I work in biotech and STEM, and I've worked both as a leader and a number of roles and individual contributor over the years. So I don't know if it's specific to necessarily science or engineering, but perhaps any really specialized role where you have individuals who require a lot of specialized training, you do see that pathway where, for the most part, people are put in leadership positions based on their, specific specialized skill set, really have no idea what they're doing. And that could be a challenge. And I could say personally, if it, my, views on leadership as a technical leader before the MBA program and after the MBA program were completely different. And I think without it, it would have been a big challenge. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there, probably not just in biotech, but other specialized roles as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like after the MBA program, like my level of awareness of everything just increased. I had more knowledge and had a better understanding of how to approach things. So I feel like even though I was questioned a lot, like why would a scientist get an MBA? Like I had my reasoning and I know that it made me a better person and I wouldn't change it. So, we really want to ask and have you think about like, how will building your personal brand play a critical role in your professional career as well as your personal life, right? We're talking about, personal branding within leadership, but also personal branding within your life, right? Like I asked, like, what legacy do you want to leave? When you're rocking in your rocking chair, looking at your lakefront, what do you want to reflect on? Like, what do you want to say? This is what I left. This is what I built, within your life, within your career, so, really think about that. So we talked about why it's important, what it is, but it's like, well, now how do I do it, right? Like, what's the roadmap to build this personal brand? And I want to say it's easy, but it's not. Like Angelica said earlier, like it doesn't happen overnight, but you can start somewhere. So first, what you can do is just journal or really take some time, go to the beach and figure out what drives you. What skills and talent sets are you most proud of? Like for me, I'm terrible at painting, but I'm proud of my paintings. I would never sell them, they're terrible. But what skills are you curious about? What have you yet to explore? For me, I picked up skateboarding in the pandemic. I'm terrible at it, but you know what? I explored it. That's definitely not something I would want to build my personal brand around, right? But I also, explored personal branding and I saw that within it, like the impact that it can have, in leadership. So, that's why Angie and I are trying to, get this going, build out a program to help leaders, so still exploring that. And like I said, 10 years from now, what do you want to have contributed to the world? Even in the smallest thing, like you are going to make an impact, like even by mentoring someone, how had someone said that you're here to mentor, like you every day and every person you speak to, like you leave an impact. So really figure out what it is that drives you. And after that, really align those values to your goals in life. Right? You talk about the overall vision and you have to implement different goals to get to that vision. But then what systems and what values will you live by, right? You have to find ways to connect your brand back to your goals and that vision that you have, right? If you want to build an empire, well, what does this empire consist of, right? If you want to leave the next legacy of finance and project management, who are you going to mentor? What are you going to do to get there, right? And especially what behaviors and traits do you want to consistently exhibit, right? We had someone, her name was Alyssa Frank in the PBA program. She described the ideal woman that she wanted to be walking down New York, so she lived by that image and the values that this woman exhibited. So it's like really paint a vision of that person, and identify those values, write them down and ask yourself each day, am I living by that? And ultimately, when you build your personal brand within your business or even in your career, like, if you work for yourself or for someone else, like, who is it that you want to impact? Is it your direct team? Is it the company? For me, like I joined Culture Club at the company I'm at right now because I wanted to help, raise awareness to some of the issues. Like I wanted to leave a footprint there and say, like, I tried and brought visibility to some of the issues and what needs to change, right? At least that was what I wanted to leave there before I left, but overall, like think about who is it that you want to impact? Like, what is that intention and why? Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question, but I have a comment. And,
Okay.
so it's interesting, I'm connecting these things I've heard in the past couple weeks. So I was meeting with an entrepreneur who works in nonprofit, and he brought a team of, I think, 10 people together to address the issue and create innovative solutions to cities that are overpopulated. And so they brought together a biologist, a behaviorist, urban planner, like, so they brought all these experts. But one of the things that they intentionally looked for were people who had other hobbies, like skateboarding or painting. And so it's really interesting because what he said was, and there's data to support this, which I wasn't aware of until I had this conversation, that people who are really knowledgeable in their field, but also have these other interests, are much more likely to be entrepreneurial and be able to think about issues from other perspectives, and to be on a team like that and to successfully come up with solutions on a cross-functional team. So I love that you talked about those interests, because it really shows that depth of, and I don't know the literature, but like that there's the depth of your personality that goes beyond just the narrow focus on your, specific area of expertise.
And I love that you bring that up, because I was into podcasts, and this is what I was telling people at work in the Culture Club, like, you're more than just a resume. Just because on your resume it says you're X, Y, and Z, like, no, you have more to offer, right? And I think that's where a lot of people forget, that they're more than that. That's why, like, when I was in Culture Club, like, it'd be nice to kind of have like little clubs where if people like painting, not me, I shouldn't do it, but like, baking, just anything. It's like to really engage and show that I care about you more than you're just a scientist, you're X, Y, and Z, right? So that's what I always tell everyone. You're more than just a resume, so it's important to identify and build your personal brand, because that way you can sell yourself. And, when you go into interviews, like, you're not just talking about your skills on paper, but you're adding depth. So,
Yeah. And I wanted to add that this is what recruiters are looking for. They always ask this question when you're applying for a new job. Like, what's your story? What makes you different? They're looking at your resume and your skills, but they also want someone that can form their own opinions and can bring diversity of thought. And if you don't know yourself, you can't answer those questions with confidence. But building your personal brand and doing the introspection work, you can go into an interview with more confidence, and what you can bring value to that role, right? Or that team, because what makes you different outside of your skills and your certifications. It's unique to who you are. And this is really your gift. We all have a gift, and it's not on paper. It's something very special that we really have to dig up, and do the inner work to express it. It's just it's there for it to be expressed. And I think this is the value of personal branding, and not just in your personal, but also professional life.
Like, for me with this recent position that I got an offer for, like, when I was interviewing, not once did I talk about my skills or anything. I talked about my passions, my why I'm still in this industry, and like the feedback that I got, because I'm friends with one of them there, she told me that it was very memorable. People loved the energy and passion that I brought of why. And I talked about personal branding there. Like, I didn't talk about how many studies I've ran or why I'm a good project manager. Like, I talked about why, like, I'm passionate about certain things, I talked about my hobbies. I talked about my dog, because I'm more than just that. So that's why for me I was really excited, because this was a senior project manager position and I was nowhere near it. But, they're willing to give me a chance because they see that I'm willing to put the work into it. So that's what I'm saying, like, stand out, don't just talk about your skills. When people ask you, like, tell me about yourself, they can see where you went to school. They can see where you've been. Just talk about your hobbies, maybe that'll start up a conversation. So, how I just said, like, that's what people want to see, something memorable. And lastly, like I said, make yourself visible, right? Make yourself visible, memorable, that's what it is. Like, if someone, like, you just had a 10-minute conversation, what do you want them to remember you by? And, Angie's going to go a little bit more about how you can do this.
Yes, so on the next slide. Yes, so we went through the personal brand foundation, right? That's doing the inner work, the introspection. But now we need to take action. You can't, everything is based on action, right? Who you want to become, you have to take action. You have to align your vision with action. But first and foremost, you have to take consistent inventory of your actions. Are your actions aligned with your values, your mission and vision? This is where you can clearly define if you're on the road of becoming who you want to be. And if you're not, what changes do you want to make? You know, this can be, it's not an easy process, to be honest with yourself and to say, you know what, I could be doing this. This will make me happier, because sometimes we do have to make tough decisions to become the person we want, the person that we already are, but it's just there, you know, it's waiting to be expressed. So first is taking inventory of your actions and asking yourself, are they aligned with your values, your vision, and the mission that you have for yourself? And once that's clear, you can go ahead and define your message. This is your personal brand statement. This is the message that you want to share with other people. It's your elevator pitch. It's basically 1 or 2 sentences that sums up what you do and your impact. So it's important to get clear on how you want to make a difference, how are you here to serve? And you know, you can put this quickly in 1 or 2 sentences, and this can help you just move and speak with more confidence in your next interview, or just in how you want to share your message online as well. And ultimately, you have to express yourself. That is what personal branding is. It's using your voice to express your thoughts and your message, to build your legacy. It is through your words. You can write, you know, you can show up online through video. You know, you have to identify what platform on social media. Now we can leverage social media to create that legacy, to create that reputation, you know, to emerge as a leader. So the third step would be identify what platform you're going to use and what format you want to express your thoughts, your experiences, your skills. It's not just about your work. It's not just about sharing tips about your skills. It's also about sharing more about your process and your journey, because that's what truly connects people. You know, people are connected through stories, and it's about how we make people feel, not necessarily like, many people are not going to be attracted to just sharing about your professional repertoire. You know, we want to hear more. We're attracted to more than just the professional life. And this is why personal branding is key in connecting with others and creating that community.
And just to add, like expressing yourself online, like all these leaders that write their books, you know, when I read them, I'm like, wow, like, you know, they started here, but now they're here. Like I can too, right? I can relate to their story, and I feel empowered to do so too. Like Angela says, I'm the why not. So like, you know, if people can build a legacy, like why can't we? You know, I always ask them, well, why not me, right? So, you know, share your story, because you'd be surprised how many people relate with your story. Like that's one thing I learned through the personal branding program. There's so many other people on there that I was like, wow, we're all going through the same emotions. Like, it's also nice to know that you're not alone. So we're almost coming to the end of our presentation, but we wanted to leave you all with a quote, because personal branding isn't just creating a brand of who you are, but it's really a process of self-awareness, right? And like, the point of it is, you know, there is nowhere to go. We just have to see where we are. If you become aware, then you suddenly recognize that you were already there, just where you have been trying to reach. You know, awareness, being present in the moment. And, you know, like I said, who do you want to become?
Yeah. And I just want to add that I believe we already are who we want to be. It's in us. It's just waiting for it to be expressed. And in order for us to really express that version, like this is where the inner work, introspection work happens, the self-awareness. Like you already are who you meant to be, right? There's ideas and there's a vision that we have for ourselves. And sometimes we think, well, how am I going to get there? But you have that vision for a reason. It's part of your purpose. And asking yourself these questions and contemplating more about your values and what action steps you can take will bring you closer to that purpose and vision. But yeah, I hope the seed is, who do you want to become? And are you taking action that's in alignment with your values to be that person?
Does anyone want to share kind of like if they have a personal brand or you want to develop your personal brand? Like, who do you want to become, Nathan?
Actually, I have a question for Angie. Have you seen like a switch since the pandemic into like people being more connected to their personal branding? You know, like what are the changes that you see and the trends that you've been seeing since the start of the pandemic? I'm not sure if you have done that before, but you know, I would be curious to see, because I feel like the pandemic put us through a lot of like thinking about who do I want to become, and things about our job and about our life and things like that. Have you been seeing that? I just wanted to share a little bit of your experience.
Yeah, there's definitely a rise, and I feel like the pandemic gave that stillness for people to reflect on their life, which we didn't have before. You know, and it made people move and ponder, like, am I living my life how I want to? And I think with the rise of social media, people are seeing that there's options and opportunities. People are building their brands, right? They can build a t-shirt brand, or they're creating programs based on their own knowledge, not necessarily dependent on a job or employment. And especially with the layoffs that happen, so many people were actually forced to create something from their own inner knowledge and their own creativity. So there's definitely a rise. And I honestly feel like a personal brand is just, I don't think it was talked about so much before. It was for celebrities and authors, but now it's for everyday people that just want to share and, build a business or share a message, make a difference. And yes, there's definitely a rise, and, social media is everywhere now, and it just keeps getting, there's just so much more innovation that's giving access that we didn't have before. So this is the opportunity. If you feel called to build something, you don't have to leave your job now, or you don't have to leave your job if you're happy with what you're doing, but you still want to contribute to more, take a passion and grow it larger, like this is your opportunity. Like the resources, they're there, and it's only growing. There's an audience now. Yeah.
Do either of you have personal brand statements that you can share with us?
That's a great question. So I did have one, but I've definitely been going through an emotional roller coaster in my life. So it's still up in the air. I know what I want to do. I just feel like I haven't summarized it still. And that's what I was telling Angie, I feel like there's so much that I want to do, because part of my human design, I'm like a manifester. So I want to do everything. So I haven't really focused on what it is. I just know that I want to make an impact and make people feel empowered and challenge them. Like, why can't you do this? Because you can, so I'm still kind of figuring it out. But my overall, it's I'm the why not, when we're talking about things, I always ask her well, why not? Well, why can't you do it? And she's like, well, you always ask me why not. But it's really it. For me, it's when people talk to me, I love hearing people's story, and I just like asking them well, why can't you do that? Well, why can't you build a photography business, right? We have a very talented scientist, he's a great photographer, and he wants to build them. Well, why not, right? So that's my personal statement, is just be the person that challenges you as to why you can't do it. So it's not full summary, but I'm working on it. So
just for clarity, it's identifying how you serve. So for example, mine is I help creatives and entrepreneurs align with their vision and authentically express their message with confidence. So it's what do you do and what's the impact? So I don't know, whoever asked the question, we can, I don't know if you want to kind of get clear on that right now, what is it that you do, and what's the impact that you're doing? In one or two sentences, how would you sum that up?
I'll still have to work on mine, but I was curious for some examples. I was going to go off of that.
Yeah. And feel free to reach out to us. Angie is great at helping build it out. She was my coach throughout the program. So definitely really useful.
Yeah, and we have a brand worksheet that we were going to send out. This basically gives you more clarity and asks you questions and gives you examples of like how you can build your personal brand statement, and just like it's a brand worksheet so you can answer the questions and on your own time and contemplate that with more introspection.
Okay, great, thank you.
Of course, you're welcome. Anybody else want to share questions, comments?
Yeah, I'll share for a moment. So, first of all, again, thanks for hosting this event tonight. We talked about, branding, pre and post pandemic. And so, for me, part of my brand, I have a lot of hobbies, and I have a lot of, friends from very different walks of life. And so, that was perhaps my brand, is bringing people together that you might not always expect to be in the same room.
Yeah.
And really enjoying that. So I had a very minimal social media presence because, quite frankly, I had so many clubs and hobbies, I didn't need one. I barely had time for keeping up with it. But, before the pandemic, where a lot of those in-person, more intimate relationships that you get when you're, playing a sport or doing a hobby with someone or taking a class with someone, that kind of went away, right? So that vehicle has now changed. And so, a couple years removed, looking at that, I'm going, okay, well, how do I now communicate my brand? And how do I, kind of rekindle that in today's world? So that's a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, I think it's beautiful what you said, that you bring people together. And that's truly a gift. Not everyone can do that. So maybe like that's maybe part of your personal brand, or you can incorporate that's special, bringing people together, being a connector.
I enjoy it. And so, as we move forward, actually, the world's changed. So I was interested in understanding, how to go about doing that in a little bit different way.
Yeah. I feel like you can leverage social media in terms of doing that. Like I know you mentioned like before with the pandemic, that was, you didn't have that option. But it's, I don't know, I feel like there's something there that you can really build on if you would like to.
Yeah, no, that's a step I'm going to have to take. Thankfully, we're able to get back to some of our in-person, relationships and in-person hobbies and things like that. But I don't think we're ever going to go, completely back to a pre-pandemic direction there. So
yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and just to add about like the social media, like I'm not huge on social, like I'm very active on LinkedIn, but when it comes to like Instagram and TikTok, like I am just like, I'd rather not. So I'm always posting about my dog, right? But it's like, like Anna, our PBA coach also told us, like, what's stopping you from showing up, in person, online, like you have to identify where the wounds are coming from. And I think that's where the introspective work comes into play, right? I'm just scared to disappoint. So like, if I show up online and I don't deliver, like what's going to happen? But I also need to understand that, I'm not going to deliver for everyone, and that's okay. I'm showing up as my authentic self and, developing my personal brand still, like I'm still trying to figure it out. But I know that I have a message and a purpose to share. So still need to work.
Yeah, and personal branding, a lot of it's for online, right? Your reputation online, but really everyone has a personal brand. You can take the personal brand foundation framework to align yourself in your life and live it offline. It's not just an online, persona. It's so you can live it offline as well. So maybe you don't want to be online and be sharing or creating content, but how can you bring the foundational framework of building a personal brand offline? Maybe you do want to connect with more people, but like Maria, right? She created this organization to leadership, to do series of presentations. It's still part of her personal brand. Like it's about asking, like you see there's a need and you want to fulfill it. This is, you have a skill or a gift in this need, and this is how you can, be of service and use that unique skill. It doesn't have to necessarily be online. It's like you can take the framework and like live it. You know, the whole purpose is of living authentically with intention.
And like how I said, like with being a leader, like you have identified a need within your organization and you want to fill that gap. You know, you've identified that you can bring that value and that unity into the organization. So, yeah. Great. And then lastly, we want to thank you all for coming. Please feel free to reach out to us and connect with us on LinkedIn. We're really nice, I promise. And we're happy to help out. Like Angie said, we are going to be sending out a personal brand worksheet just to help everyone kind of like, where do we start right now? This is a lot of information, a lot of conversations going back and forth, but you know, we'll send it out. And if you have any questions or want to help clarify your message, just reach out to us. Happy to help. Oh, there's plenty of questions. Oops, my bad. Thank you, Angie and Maria. Oh, and it's just thank you, everyone. Thank you. And then
Thank you guys so much.
everyone, Erica's got a certificate of participation.
You get a certificate for participating.
Also wanted to invite everyone that is present in here that in June 7th, so next week, June 6th, my apologies. Same time at 6 p.m. at the same room, 316, we will have our last series of the Leadership Toolkit, and the subject is going to be salary negotiation. So definitely, if you're interested into learning, not just as a salary negotiation as a leader, but also as a person or as an employee, we will be talking about that as well.
I was also wondering who's present in the classroom.
It is, so Kari sorry, is the only student, and then Nathan Sipple is here as an alum.
Awesome. Okay, that's who I thought, but I wasn't sure if I was missing anyone.
And Lauren, we'll send you the worksheets if you could please help us distribute it, please.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank
I
you.
believe I got everybody here. Yeah.
And also just quickly, you know, when you identify your worth, your personal branding purpose, like you have better idea of what you're worth in like monetary value. So that's how salary negotiation comes into play.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Maria.
Mhm.
You ask for that extra money because you deserve it. Or an extra vacation day too.
Congratulations, Maria, on your new position. I knew you're gonna get it.
Thank you. I'm so excited.